A lot of entrepreneurs have great ideas, but they don't actually know whether the business makes money. And a funny example of this is if you started a restaurant selling really high-end steak for €5 or $5, you'll get lots of customers in the door, but you will lose money doing that, right?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
That's fantastic, Nick. And let's dig in, because, a lot of people have ideas and everybody think that all the ideas are good and they're good business idea, regardless that in order to have a business, you do need an idea, So tell us what is a good business idea? What are the fundamentals? What are the verticals? What is a good idea in business? Because a lot of people come to me all the time, Harry, I have this idea. This idea is amazing. This idea is gonna work. Ideas everybody have. Now, a good idea is completely different ball game. So can you tell us a little bit more what are the basis of a very good business idea?
Sure. It's funny that you ask me that because my company Ideascale literally helps large organizations generate a whole bunch of ideas and then separate the good ideas from the bad ideas. So I do this for huge organizations, Pfizer, NASA, Comcast, whatever, right?
Wow.
All over the So it's funny that you asked me about ideas. So firstly, let's start with saying ideas are important. Before you have a business, before you have a product, somebody has to have the idea. Okay. Number two, in school they tell you there's no such thing as stupid questions. That's not true. There are stupid ideas and there's good ideas and there are bad ideas. And it's important to distinguish between good ideas and bad ideas. So let's ignore the bad ideas because it's not valuable to say this is an idea stupid because then you don't actually have an idea to build a business or a product. So how do you figure out what are the good ideas? I think good ideas have a few characteristics. Number one, they're doable, right? If you have a product that takes, 100 years and costs $4 trillion, it may get us to the next black hole, but it's not doable. We will all be dead and gone by then. So pick something that is actually buildable, doable in the real world with the resource constraints that you have in front of you. Number two, does the product and business model make money? A lot of entrepreneurs have great ideas, but they don't actually know whether the business makes money. And a funny example of this is if you started a restaurant selling really high-end steak for €5 or $5, you'll get lots of customers in the door, but you will lose money doing that, right? Because the steak costs you $30 to buy at the butcher, and then you have to tell a chef to cook it for $10 or $20 an hour, whatever it is. That steak costs you $50 to make, and you're selling it for $5. You will lose money. And this is something we learned in Wall Street. So I spent most of my career in Wall Street as a professional investor. There's so many businesses that are bad businesses because their owners and leaders have not thought through, does this business work? Sit down with a spreadsheet or a piece of paper and figure out what your costs are, what your revenues are, what price your customers are reasonably willing to pay before you go start that business. That 5-minute exercise will save you years of your life and lots of people laughing at you. Because any venture capitalist, if you ever go to a venture capitalist, they're going to do this really well. That's what I used to do for a living. And if you can't explain very clearly and in a right way why your business makes money, you will either they will not give you money or B, your business will eventually fail. And finally, a good idea is something that plays to your strengths. If you're an entrepreneur founder, ultimately, as I said earlier, you're going to be the face of your company. You're going to be out there selling. You're going to be out there building the product. You're going to be living and breathing your product. If that product or service doesn't play to your strengths as an individual, then the product is going to suffer from the same weaknesses. So a good idea necessarily plays to your strengths. So for example, I'm a very math-oriented guy. I love math. So any product or technology or service that involves a lot of math is probably good business for me to be in. However, I was running an art company or you're designing music or you're painting paintings or designing movies, I'd be really bad at that. So for me, any movie idea is a bad idea. For you, a movie idea may be a great idea. But I know for me, that's not where my strengths are. And so therefore, my weaknesses will pollute that idea.
Yeah. But let's talk about Nick because, I have... Let me tell you a few of my terrible ideas. I have.
We all.
Yeah. I won't tell you too much, otherwise I will depress you. Yeah, you will cry there. But I have one business idea, that I wanted to open the first halal Spanish restaurant in London. Yeah. And I actually did it. Yeah. And guess what happened? The idea was so good, then I lost 200,000 and 2 years of my life. My girlfriend, the girlfriend that I had back in the day, I also lost her. It was a total disaster. So I learned a big lesson about ideas, yeah, which is a little bit like what you're sharing, yeah. Number one, yeah, a lot of people, when they came, oh, I have this unique idea. Well, I think that the number one in the unique idea sometimes it's a little bit risky, because maybe nobody's done it before because there is no demand for it. Yeah. I mean, if the idea is very good and no one had done it, I mean, you can have a unicorn there, but there is a flip side, and I live the flip side, and it's hard. Yeah. And what happened was there was too early the idea, right? So I run the restaurant in Brick Lane, which is the Curry House Street in London, and which they are all curry restaurants from Bangladesh, India, and so on. So I thought that was a good idea to bring alternative food to this emblematic road in London, which is Brick Lane. But what happened? What happened is I was very early. It was very new. The community, they were not used to have halal, Spanish halal food. And the time that took to educate the community, the restaurant business, as you know, you described, runs a lot of operation, a lot of overheads and so on. So what happened is that the market adoption was really slowly and expensive, to the point that I have to close. However, guess what happened? As soon as I left, now 50% of Brick Lane is alternative food. Yeah. So I have a friend that wants to do a documentary for me. Once upon a time in Brick Lane, they want to put it, talking about my brilliant idea about the restaurant. So the idea, if I come to you and say, Nick, I have a brilliant idea, I'm gonna do the first unique halal restaurant in Brick Lane. Nobody done it before. I'm gonna bring alternative food, this is have a lot of logic. Why everybody selling the same thing? If I sell something alternative, gonna win. And I can tell you this idea. And maybe you can tell Harry, hold on, slow down. You think that is good, but it's not as good as it thinks. Yeah. So
I wouldn't say it's a bad idea. I would say, so again, I believe hugely in the power of experimentation. I'd say rather than opening a full restaurant, let's start with a food cart.
Yeah.
And that costs you nothing. And if it sucks, you can shut it down. You're down $10,000 in 2 years.
I agree. Yeah, so it was another house another guy in the corner. He was selling Italian coffee, and he was making a lot, only selling coffee. He was telling me, Harry, people come here and spend £10 a day in coffee. So in the morning, afternoon, so he was making £10 a day for one client. So he was from Italy, was in the corner with the very tiny shop, and then I was in the middle of Brick Lane with the big restaurant. And then, but now, like I said, 50% of the street have changed. So I think that this is what the market demand. But there is always someone that had to go first, I think, or somebody that have to mark the trend. And then, and if you ask me now, I prefer that somebody goes earlier and then I go after, because it's expensive. Another brilliant idea that I have once is I open a career advice business. And the idea was great. And we were helping people to find a job. Yeah. But when I go and check the account, I said, where is the money? I said, well, they just find jobs. So now they have to pay the rent. They have to pay this. They have to pay that. So you have to wait to get paid. So it sounds a good idea, but when you bring it to practice, it has some challenges. So I like what you said about experimentation. Can you expand a little bit more on that? Because I think that this is my issue with the ideas, that I have the idea and I build a whole business around the thing. I got a little bit crazy and maybe way too fast. Yeah. The people that know me, they say that, I'm the speed of implementation. When I move really, really fast, and sometimes that could be counterproductive. Correct?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I'll give you a quick explanation of like taking experiments. So I'll start with a theory. So there's this theory in economics called real options theory, which is you should never be making big decisions in life, in business or et cetera. What you want to do is make small decisions that give you the option to make big decisions later in life. So it's not like you meet a wonderful woman or a wonderful man and you marry them right away. You go on a first date, you treat them really nicely. You may not like them for that second date, but because you treated them really nicely, you've given yourself the option for that second date or that third date or eventual marriage, right? The same shit is true in that's called real options theory, that you make small decisions that give you the potential opportunity to make big decisions later on in life. The same is true in business, right? The right way to make big business decisions is not to make big business decisions. That's actually, if you go look at the theory in business, what McKinsey puts out, what Harvard Business School puts out, what academics and PhDs have been putting out, that's a terrible way to make decisions. What you do is you buy a real option. So you run a small experiment. And what that experiment does is, number one, it reduces your risk. You didn't risk 2 years of your life or $200,000 or 200,000 euros or pounds or whatever, right? You risked a small amount of money to open up a shopping cart. But secondly, you get two things for it. Number one is you collect data on whether the idea is good or bad fundamentally, right? And you can make changes. If you set up a big restaurant and buy $1 million of decorations, it's really hard to change the decorations, but if you buy a small shopping cart and you realize, wait, everything's right, but I just need to flavor it differently, you throw out your old spices and you buy new spices for your hot dog or for your burger or whatever, right? Or your Italian coffee or your Spanish halal food. So and by the way, if you fail, it's okay. You learn something from that failure, and that makes you smarter for that next decision. So I'll give a real example from how we run Ideascale. We run lots of different marketing campaigns, for example. Actually, let's use product. We're a software company. We launch lots of features. We know some of those features are going to be terrible and people are going to hate them. And so after we put them out to market, we shut them off. And whatever, it didn't hurt us because we put out 20 features and customers loved 2 of them, 12 were good, and 5 sucked, and we shut them off. But none of those the features that we lost or that we put out and our customers hated make the company go bankrupt. None of them really piss off our customers. They're just not as good as they could be. And that's how you're supposed to make good decisions. That means every day you get smarter as an individual and as a business, and you never risk losing years of your life or having to fire people or and then on the flip side, when the experiment is going well, what you do is you put more gas on the fire. You say, like, this is going well. So instead of one food cart, I'm going to have 10 of them. You go really aggressively. So when things are going right at Ideascale, like a marketing campaign or new product, we do a lot more of it really quickly.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.